Welcome to freedomlovin.com, where we focus on building freedom in an unfree world. Through personal development, location independence, and passive income strategies. Now here's your host, Kevin Koskela.
Welcome back to another episode of Freedom Lovin'. This is Kevin, and this is episode number 32. And in just a minute, I have an interview with the 4-hour physician, George Smolinski. And we're going to talk about how to free up your life, how to free up your business, just basically how to get more freedom in your life through outsourcing and using virtual assistants, or VAs as we call them. So stay tuned for that. Just a couple of things. I have another 5-star iTunes rating and review, and this one just came in, and it's from Pure Mac X. And it says, constant stream of valuable information, 5 stars. Kevin is a down-to-earth guy who's quite intelligent. His podcast has helped me in my personal and professional life. The advice you'll get from the show is priceless. Well, thanks so much for your review, and if you, the listener, want to help us out, you can just go to iTunes and give us a rating and review. That would be much appreciated. I mentioned on the last podcast that I was also taking donations in Bitcoin, and I had a little issue with the widget, so I'm still working on that. So if you do like to do your donations and do your support in Bitcoin, I will have that up. Hopefully in the next week, but it's kind of an annoying thing that the code just stopped working for some reason. So anyway, I'll get that figured out. I also have a PayPal widget up there, which if you are so inclined, that would also be appreciated. But the main thing is, if you like the show and you're getting something out of it, I'd love to hear from you on iTunes, and then I will read it on the next podcast. So let's see, it's kind of that time of year. Christmas is coming up. I think this podcast will be released right before Christmas, so maybe Christmas Eve. So this is a busy time of year. Everybody kind of stops working, and for me it's a little bit annoying, but I am going up to see my family in the Bay Area, and I will be there for a few days. And I have a niece and a nephew. Niece is 12 and my nephew is 5, and I got them Bitcoins for Christmas, so I'm really excited about that. I hope they are too. I think they will be in the long run. They will be excited, maybe not right when they get it, but I think that'll be cool to watch it grow over the years and watch them become, possibly millionaires from just starting from this point. So Bitcoin has plummeted in the last week, or I guess it's been about a week. There was some bad news out of China. China's trying to really put the screws down on using Bitcoin in their country. The government is kind of gone insane and just kind of blocked every possible thing they can. So the price got cut down, way down. Short term, that's not a good thing. Long term, it's nothing. Everyone that's been involved in Bitcoin for as long or longer than I have has expected the governments around the world and banks are not going to be favorable to it. So these type of things are expected. That's not the last one that's going to happen. There are going to be other governments. I'm sure the U.S. is going to start to do some things probably next year, and you'll see some news coming out about how horrible Bitcoin is and how nobody should use it because it's, I don't know, it promotes terrorism and drug dealing and everything else that they always talk about. So, but that will happen. In the meantime, what's awesome to see is that it's bounced right back. It got cut down. I think the lowest was like 380, and now it's back up to, I know it's over 600. This morning I saw it at 650. So yeah, we're coming back, and I'm super excited, more excited than ever about Bitcoin. And I'm actually considering doing a podcast on Bitcoin. I know there's a few out there right now, but I think there's a whole in the market. Nobody's there's a lot of people focusing on technology. I love Let's Talk Bitcoin. That's a great podcast. They do it twice a week, and they've just got so much information on there. But I still think there's a hole in the market with talking about kind of just the news, what's going on. Like currently, there's always news coming out about Bitcoin, like the China thing, and kind of interpreting that, discussing it, and also the price. Like not too many people are talking about like how to invest. What should you do? What does the price drop mean? What happens when it goes way up? Should you stop? Should you keep going? There's all sorts of things to talk about there, and it's like there's no CNBC of Bitcoin yet. I mean, I think CNBC mentions it once in a while, but there's no one doing any kind of analysis like that. Like I mean, so I'm thinking about doing like hopefully a daily podcast and with my friend Steve. So we'll see if that comes through. That might be a little bit more than I can handle time-wise at this point, but I'm just kind of curious what your feedback is. If you, the listener, are interested in a Bitcoin podcast, let me know. Shoot me an email or just comment on the blog at freedom11.com. That would be really helpful. So, the Passport to Freedom event is coming up January 23rd. So if you want to get your tickets, it's in Las Vegas, Nevada. And this is where you'll learn ways to reduce your dependence on the United States without having to leave the country, ways to increase your personal sovereignty, ways to protect your money, ways to quit your job and make money from anywhere. Everything you need to create a freedom-oriented lifestyle will be at this 3-day event. So the Nomad Capital's Andrew Henderson will be hosting and speaking at the event, along with Jeff Berwick, who's also been on this show, and Peter Schiff of Euro-Pacific Capital, along with many other amazing speakers. So to find out more and to register, just go to freedom11event.com. And I have a New Year's resolution, and that is going to be to outsource more things and create freedom in my life with using some of the techniques that George is going to talk about on our interview coming up. Have a great week and have a great holiday season, and go out there and build some freedom. And we'll talk to you soon. All right. Well, I am really excited to have George Smolinski online today, and he is an MD and is a full-time physician who has dedicated his life to helping others find what he has found, the time and means to pursue one's passions to their fullest degree. He's the creator of 4 Hour Physician, an online resource to help others with their transformation from being crushed by life to enjoying every waking minute. And his website is 4hourphysician.com. Hey, George, welcome to Freedom Lovin'.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kevin. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, this was really good timing. I think we exchanged some Twitter posts about Bitcoin, and then seeing that you were the 4 Hour Physician was really interesting because I'm trying to do a lot of outsourcing, and especially with my personal life, but also in my business. So I do some outsourcing, but I definitely could do a lot more and actually achieve that higher freedom level that I always talk about on my podcast. I want to get to a higher percentage of freedom in my life. So this is a perfect timing in seeing your stuff come across. So how did you get started? How did you become the 4 Hour Physician?
That's a great story. Back in residency, I kind of had some inklings about what I wanted to do as far as efficiency when I wanted to be a staff physician, because if anyone knows this or has talked with physicians, a lot of residency is you're the low man on the totem pole, so you get all of the what we call scut work, which I felt that was kind of wasted time that can be spent learning or taking care of patients or doing things better. So I developed some skills in residency on how to better manage my day. But then when I got to be a staff physician, all that kind of fell by the wayside. When I became a staff physician, I started a pretty aggressive campaign to build up a pretty sizable clinic and hiring more staff and getting more equipment and more space, all those different things. But what I ran into is the system that I built, it all revolved around me. Mm-hmm. So that was not a great situation to be in, as you can imagine, because everything flowed through me. All the decisions, if anything needed to be done, that was me. Yeah. I was the guy. Yeah. And at that moment, I realized that I needed to rearrange my priorities so that I could take care of patients as best as I could, eliminate the stuff that I didn't need to do, and dedicate my life to pursuing my passions. So I had some fertile ground in my brain, and I read some books, which I'm sure you've read as well. Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. I also read some great books, Work Less, Live More, and Your Money or Your Life. Mm-hmm. Those 3 books sort of formed the foundation for me, which was I need to be out there doing what I want to do and not spending my life doing busy work. So I've built things from there. I formed my own company with one of my colleagues. We are working on new business ideas. I've outsourced a ton of stuff from my personal life, and I've been able to rearrange my life in order to maximize my time pursuing my passions. And granted, it's not perfect 100% of the time, but I found a lot of the tips and tricks to make things work. And my goal is to help as many people as possible achieve that same thing and achieve that level of satisfaction with their lives.
Yeah, that is awesome. Now, what does your typical day look like?
Well, typical day, I'll take you right through it. A lot of my day is concentrated around batching tasks. I'm sure that's something that you're familiar with, but it's doing tasks in a certain block of your day so that you can optimally achieve what you want to achieve at certain times of the day. So get up around 6:30. Most people that are successful, I've read that they get up early.
Yeah.
So get up, head off to work, show up about 7:30. First thing I do is I sit down at my desk and I mind map my day. Mm-hmm. Write out morning, afternoon, and evening, and the big things that I want to accomplish for each portion of that block of time for the day. Go through my day. I've structured it so that, and backing up a sec, I did some introspection a while back and figured out what times of the day are my most creative times, what times of the day I feel like I'm lagging.
Yeah.
And I've structured my day around what types of patients I need to care for at which times. There's different types of patients I care for, and sometimes I need to be more creative. Sometimes I need to be better with my hands when I'm doing procedures, and sometimes I need to do more critical thinking. So I've structured my day so that I see different patients at different times. Mm-hmm. I then batch my tasks. I'll see patients all the way through. I don't check email except for twice a day. I use Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week idea of doing an autoresponder. So 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock, the only times I check email.
Yeah.
I finish up with everything about maybe 3:30, head to the gym, or if it's been nice weather, which is kind of rare here in Germany, I'll bike home. I'll hit some of the single-track trails right around our hospital and ride for an hour, hour and a half. Come home, make dinner with the kids, spend some time with the kids after dinner, put the kids down, and then in the evenings I'll either be working on, some entrepreneurial ventures like for our physician, talking with my wife, or planning our next big adventure with our family.
Sounds good. Now, the for our physician is not just for physicians, right? It's like anyone that wants to free up time.
Absolutely. I targeted physicians in particular when I started because physicians are terrible at time management. But the tools and tricks and ideas that I have on there, they can benefit anyone who is busy, and that includes just about all of us, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually met a guy a couple of years ago here in San Diego that his story was that he was a full-time physician and working insane hours, and he felt like he had no time, and so he wasn't really enjoying himself. And then he discovered internet business, and he started a little information product, just some small thing, and started making a little bit of money on the side, and then ended up quitting his job, and then just got fully internet marketing. And it's kind of the same type of thing where he has all the time now and has the passive income to support his life. So it's
yeah, and that brings up an interesting point. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to target physicians, is because a lot of physicians are pretty dissatisfied with their jobs.
Yeah,
there are some studies out there that over 50% of physicians are planning on leaving the medical profession within a year or two.
Wow.
That's a big number. Not everyone is going to, but that speaks to the dissatisfaction. So it doesn't matter if you're a physician or a lawyer or an entrepreneur, anyone that is dissatisfied with what they're doing. There's ways that you can restructure even what you're doing right now so you don't have to do as many of the parts of your job that suck.
Yeah. Yeah, that's key, and that's key to also getting to what you're passionate about, because I tend to get bogged down in a lot of the details that I really feel like I shouldn't be doing, but I am doing them, and it's almost like taking the time out to even organize the stuff that I can outsource is like, even that right there, I start putting that out, procrastinating on that, but it's just sort of like taking that time, getting it all organized, and then sending it off to somebody that can do it. Yeah, it's just an amazing feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing like it in the world, having a team of people to help you out, for sure.
Yeah. So how do you go about finding a VA and, from the basic, just from the very starting point, you have a business and you're just building a business, where do you start with finding help like that?
Well, I went with Odesk because that was one of the recommended resources in Tim Ferriss's book, and I've had great success with them. I've probably hired about 20 different VAs through Odesk. I'm actually one of their top 10% clients because I've hired so many VAs through their service.
Yeah.
I think a great way to get started, though, is with Fiverr. I use Fiverr a lot for micro VA tasks like doing an ebook cover, for instance. I think that's a great thing to do with Fiverr because it's $5. It's great practice in outsourcing and delegating. And I think it really works well and it gives you a lot of practice. I've got some information on my site about how to actually do this step by step, including some guides and templates that I've put together that I've found myself to be really useful. The key thing to remember, though, is you got to get started. That's the thing that holds so many people back.
Yeah.
I will make this offer for your listeners as well. I actually wrote the book on how to find a VA. I wrote a book, this was pretty recently, about 3 months ago, called Free Time, Hire a Virtual Assistant and Liberate Your Life. Mm-hmm. And if you're up for it, I would like to offer this book free to your listeners. It's a guide that goes A to Z, from how to go onto Odesk, how to figure out what to do, what templates to use to figure out what a good job description is for Odesk, how to interview a VA, how to go through the whole thing. And it even has tips on how to work with a VA and get started with one. Mm-hmm. So, again, I think it's a pretty good resource. And if your readers and listeners are interested, I'd love to offer it to them.
Yeah, that's great. Where can they go to pick that up?
Well, right now it's on Amazon. We can talk later offline as well about if, I can certainly set up a download for your readers or just give you the book. I think it's so important to get hired with the VA.
Yeah.
That, I'd like to get this resource to your listeners and your readers as soon as possible.
Yeah, that'd be great. We can set something up, and I'll just put that in the show notes. If you're listening to this, you can just check out the page at freedom11.com, and this will be podcast number 32. So I'll have the link there. So how do you free up time I'd like to kind of break it down with work. How specifically are you freeing up time, and then also with personal tasks?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you have to figure out what lens you want to look through your life at. And this is what I mean by that. You need to look at every task that you're going to do. You need to figure out if it's something that can be automated or outsourced. There's so many things in our life that can be automated. Mm-hmm. Take, for example, this is a great example, I think, Lending Club. I think you're probably familiar with it. It's a peer-to-peer lending platform that you can invest in.
Yeah.
There's an automatic investment thing that you can set up through Lending Club Prime so that they do the investments for you. That's automation right there. That is as simple as it gets. The other things you can do is go through your day. Start first thing in the morning, go through your workday, and figure out with each of the tasks that you're doing, is this something that you could have someone else do for you? Or is it something that could just be completely made automatic? Mm-hmm. You'll find that many of the things that you can do can be easily done by someone else.
Yeah.
Anyone with an internet connection can accomplish a lot of different things for you. And there's very little that you have to have your own hands-on, and very little that you need direct input for a sustained amount of time.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best way to get started, is just by going through your day and figuring out with each one of the tasks that you're doing. Keep a notepad with you.
Yeah.
Keep a file on your computer and just write down to the different tasks that you're doing. Write down and figure out exactly what this task means. Figure out if this is something that could be automated, and then figure out if it's something that could be outsourced. And you'll find that a ton of your tasks can actually be outsourced. I myself did this, and it was really eye-opening.
Yeah.
There are so many things that you can outsource, and it has the snowball effect. Once you start doing it, you're going to find that you outsource most of your life.
Yeah, which is where I'm headed, and that's exactly where I want to go. I think my struggle, and I think this is probably where a lot of people struggle, is how can I justify paying for these things right now? Like, it seems like it's really hard to get over that hump of like, okay, well, I need to do these things. I know that it's something that I could outsource, but I don't want to pay for it at this point. What would you say, what's a good way to go about that and to still start automating things and outsourcing, but not spend all your money?
Well, that's a legitimate question and a legitimate point. That's why I like Odesk, because you could find good virtual assistants for definitely less than $10 an hour, usually less than $5 an hour.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing you have to look at, though, is your priorities. You have time, you have your money, and you have your health. Mm-hmm. You need to prioritize those. And I think that most people will agree that time, assuming you're in decent health, is your most valuable asset.
Right.
You can always earn more money, and you can always improve your health, but you cannot get more time.
Right.
So if you're spending, let's say that you're a professional and you earn $50 or $100 an hour to do whatever it is you do, does it really make sense for you to spend 2 hours doing something that someone else getting paid $10 an hour could do? Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
So it's an investment. It's an investment in your time, which is your most valuable asset.
Right. Right. So it'd be a good idea to kind of figure out what you're worth, what your dollars per hour is, and then go from there. So if you think you're worth $20 an hour, then paying somebody $18 an hour for something probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you can bring that down to like $3 or $4, then that starts to make a lot more sense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, I've had great success with Odesk. I've not hired a VA for more than $6 an hour.
Yeah.
I've been able to accomplish a lot.
Yeah.
And I've been able to find quality VAs for that price.
Yeah. What types of things are you outsourcing specifically?
Oh, man. Well, there's a whole list to get people started in my book. I outsource ebook covers. I outsource travel planning. I outsource... One of the headlights burned out on our minivan, so I had my VA order me a new headlight. Mm-hmm. I outsource blog posts, writing some blog posts. I have someone write the basic structure for me, and then I go in and add my own content and proofread it, add images and all that. PowerPoint presentations, video editing. Literally, the sky's the limit. I mean, I've seen crazy stuff, too, like on Fiverr. You can get someone to draw you a picture of a chicken and then roast it over a fire and mail the picture of the chicken to you. So, really, whatever you want done can be done online. The biggest thing, though, is I think, especially for your readers, is trying to find someone who is, I would call it a personal VA, someone that can manage the day-to-day business of your life.
Yeah.
And with the tools and technology that are available now, you can do that. I mean, I give access to my VAs. I give them access to everything. I can do that securely through tools like LastPass. I mean, that's a free tool that you can share your passwords with the VA. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes it a lot easier. Are you also outsourcing the stuff like basically is local to you, like the grocery shopping and the cleaning, house cleaning, and anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we have house cleaners that come in and clean our house. Grocery shopping, unfortunately, in our location in Germany, we don't have a grocery delivery service.
Yeah. Like
Peapod or whatever, but even that, I do Amazon Subscribe and Save.
Yeah.
So, we never run out of cat food anymore, but, there's a lot of things that are shipped automatically. It's an automated system so that I don't have to spend as much time at the grocery store, for instance.
Yeah.
It's that lens that I talked about before. You need to look at everything you do through that lens of, is this something that could be automated, or is this something that someone else could do for me?
Right. Right. It's absolutely the thing that's going to free up your life. I mean, like you said, the time is such an important thing. And I've talked about this on my podcast that to me, it'd be much better to earn a lot less money but have the time to do the things I want to do than to have like a lot more money but be constantly busy with all these tasks.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, and again, speaking to physicians, but all of us are unfortunately succumb to this a lot of time. We can always work harder and earn more money.
Yeah.
You can't work harder and earn more time. So, exactly. Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So how do you manage your VAs? I mean, you have VAs doing all sorts of different tasks. You obviously don't just have like one VA that does everything. But how do you manage all these people? I mean, it seems like kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, it is overwhelming. There's a couple different ways that you can approach this. Either you can be the manager, or you can have one kind of personal VA, or kind of a executive assistant VA manage those people. Mm-hmm. And I've used both. A lot of times when I get started with a new VA, I like to manage them myself to give them a real good idea of the goals and expectations of the team. Mm-hmm. This is, back it up for a minute too, again, you lay the foundation of looking through productivity and efficiency through those lenses of automation and outsourcing. And then once you've built that foundation, you can move on to the tools that help you do these things better. That brings us to the tool I like to use, another great free tool, which is Trello, to help manage my VAs. Mm-hmm. Trello is an online project management web app that they have a great iPhone app as well. You can keep track of different projects. You can upload different files from Google Drive or Dropbox. You can upload images, put in checklists, communicate over Trello. It's awesome. So again, it's using those different tools like that to help manage your VAs. And I think Trello is probably the number one tool that I like to use.
Cool. So then you have this VA that's kind of like your manager or executive assistant. So they're actually managing other VAs that you have. So they're in communication with like the person that's doing your sales copy or your website, your ebook cover, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's huge. You don't want to fall into the trap of hiring 20 people and then you're managing them all. That sucks.
Yeah.
You're not saving any time.
Yeah.
One of my partners here in Germany, I motivated him to get started with VAs. This was about maybe 3 months ago, right about the time my book came out. He read it, and it kind of changed his life. Fortunately, he took my advice, and he has one executive VA managing about 6 different people. And it's great because he gets online, and he talks with his executive VA for about 30 minutes a day.
Yeah.
There's no way you can manage 6 people effectively in 30 minutes a day otherwise.
Right. So basically you're training that person to manage your business. I mean, it's like this is how the business goes, and these are the people that do these things, and they're basically just, kind of assigned to managing your business. Right,
exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's important to point out, too, this is a stepwise progression. I mean, if you go out and hire your first VA today, which I hope your listeners do.
Yeah.
You're going to want to work with that person and build up trust and know how they work and know how to communicate with them over the course of a couple of months. You can't go from 0 to 60 with VAs.
Yeah.
I mean, it took my friend a couple of months to build up to this point, but now it's working great.
Yeah, you can just see how much more this would allow you to expand and do different things in business. Where some people, I think, my friends at Internet Business Mastery, they have talked about, kind of outsourcing things and and they talk about how they do things and all the different ways they outsource work and how it saves so much time and they've been able to expand their business by doing that. And there's a small number of people, it's not very many, but there's a small number of people that are kind of offended, like, oh, you're hiring people from overseas and taking jobs away from America and stuff like that. And that's such an easy thing to respond to, because even if that's true that you're taking jobs away, which I don't agree with, you're also providing a lot more. You're expanding your own business. You're actually creating more business in the U.S. or in this area.
Yeah, and I've heard that argument too. And I think it doesn't hold a lot of water. I've hired VAs from the U.S. and they work great. But, for the small entrepreneur, you can't afford $50 an hour. So you got to start small. You're going to have to get someone from overseas to do that work for you as you build your business.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And so, I've used Odesk for a while now, for a few years, and I really like it. I like the communication. I like the quality that I see on there of people that work for me. And I also have a lot of luck hiring people from the Philippines. And I know this isn't any secret that there's really good workers in the Philippines, but has that been your experience as well?
Oh, yeah. The Philippines, the third largest English-speaking country in the world.
Yeah.
So I've also had good success with workers from Kenya as well.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, that's good to hear.
You get a a bad contractor from the U.S., from the Philippines, from Bangladesh, it doesn't matter. What matters is the quality of the candidate that you're interviewing, because that's going to make all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, do you have a strategy, an interview strategy that you use for hiring VAs, or does it just depend on what the job is and what you're looking for?
Yeah, I go through a pretty standard interview process for people that are going to be working for me for a long time. If it's just for a specific job, I'll kind of abbreviate it. The first step is an email interview. Mm-hmm. That's super important because you obviously want to see what someone's communication skills are, how well they write, how timely they respond, etc. I then go through a Skype interview or a Google Hangout interview. That's also very important because you can talk with someone. You can get a good idea of how well they communicate when the pressure's on, so to speak. The biggest tip, though, that I have for your listeners is this. Don't neglect the Skype or Google Hangout interview, and here's why. You need to assess how good their internet connection is. Mm-hmm. Now, it makes sense so you can communicate, right? Well, think about it this way, too. What if their internet connection is so poor that they can't download the files that you're sending them?
Right.
What if they can't work fast because their internet connection sucks?
Yeah.
They're wasting their time and yours and wasting your money.
Yeah, that's right.
So, again, that's, I think, a very good tip. I detail more of this actually in the book, too. So it lays everything out. I got a pretty good set of interview questions that I think are super useful as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's one thing that I think has also slowed me down in expanding and hiring more VAs is that it's kind of a process, and I'm never sure exactly what I'm doing. One thing that I've done that I don't know if a lot of people do this, but when I'm hiring a writer, somebody that's just basically, I'm having them write either a copy your articles or something, I don't spend a lot of time doing the interviews. Like I basically interview them, like I ask them questions over email, and I look at their previous work samples and see how the communication goes over email, and then if it's going well, I just instantly hire them. And then if it's not working out for whatever reason, I instantly let them go and then find somebody else. Do you think that's a good idea, or do you think I'm going to be wasting time down the road?
No, you're doing exactly what I do. So Good job.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes total sense, especially for kind of a limited role like a writer.
Yeah.
For an executive VA, yeah, you definitely want to do the more advanced A to Z interview process.
Right. So you use Odesk a lot, and that's really, I think that's all I use. I mean, I use Elance for specific things because there seems to be, for some reason, there's better writers on Elance, but mostly I'm using Odesk. Do you go off and use any of the other sites, like hiring somebody that's more full-time, that's actually working for you as opposed to working through Odesk?
No, I've used iWriter.
Mm-hmm.
iWriter's pretty good, but other than that, just Odesk and Fiverr.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so easy to use that that's my default. But I do know there's a lot of people out there talking about, finding people on various websites that are looking for work and then just hiring them as a full-time, like 40 hours a week type person.
Yeah. I mean, I've started with Odesk. I've had no problems with them, so that's why I've just continued with them.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. That's good to hear, too. And you pay a little extra with Odesk, obviously, because they're taking a cut. But it can be worth it because you can have your team all in Odesk, and it's very easy to pay everybody. You don't have to, it's just one invoice, and then it gets paid through Odesk. So I find that to be really easy and worth a little bit extra.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the ability for them to manage the whole payment platform is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you talk about the services that you provide for VAs?
Well, for a physician, we actually have a virtual assistant locator service. Mm-hmm. So for people that they're a little scared, maybe intimidated by going and hiring their first VA, or maybe they just don't have the time to do it, we do it for you.
Yeah.
We go through Odesk. We go through 200,000 candidates that are on Odesk now. We send you a list of questions, some skill sets, really try to hone in on what the VA, the characteristics of the VA that you want to hire.
Right.
We take that information, give you some further information about how to interview a VA, how to work with them, all that information up front as well to give you a good resource for once you start working. And then we go into Odesk, figure out, hey, which of these candidates would be really good for this person, or which of these obviously wouldn't fit. And then we contact you within 7 days with a list of the 3 top candidates for your position. Mm-hmm. We also give you an interview question. We even, set up a specific interview question that we think would be a good one to ask for this client, and give you the other interview questions as well with the information that we provide. This goes to you, and you take it and start the process. You get 3 great candidates that will be hopefully great VAs for you.
Yeah.
And the best part is we have a 100% money back guarantee. If you don't like the candidates we send you, let us know. Mm-hmm. We'll go and find you more candidates. We'll find you 3 more and work with you to find you a great VA.
Yeah. Cool. That sounds awesome. That definitely would save a lot of time and just get people started, as opposed to, like what I typically do, which is procrastinate and think it's a lot bigger of a task and never end up doing it. So, yeah, I would recommend it, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it is no small feat to hire your first VA.
Yeah.
So that's where we come into play.
Yeah, awesome. So as far as your personal life goes, you say you're into traveling with your family? Is that kind of one of the things that you've been able to do with all this extra time?
Yeah, exactly. We're all over Europe.
Yeah.
We're planning for a ski vacation here in a couple of weeks to Italy. I've traveled all over Europe, biking, skiing, seeing the great sights. I mean, England, France, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Czech Republic. We're actually going to Bosnia here in a couple of months to go skiing where they had the '84 Olympics. We've even been to Spain, too, out to the Canary Islands. So, cool. By rearranging my priorities, I've been able to dedicate that time to family time.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really what it's about. And you would probably not be able to do this if it wasn't for this, taking on all the VAs and the kind of 4-hour lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, a great example, we'll go out and see a show in Frankfurt. Mm-hmm. I'll email my VA, tell her to get tickets for the show.
Yeah.
Find us the best restaurants within a 500-meter radius of the theater, and away we go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So the VAs definitely make it possible.
Yeah. Really cool. Now, so I kind of want to wrap up here. We started late because I forgot about the time zone difference. I was an hour off, unfortunately. But
all right.
But the reason, the way that we met was through Twitter, and we were talking about Bitcoin. So a little different topic, but just wanted to get your take on how did you find out about Bitcoin, and where do you think it's headed?
I'm a reader of the Zero Hedge blog, and they cover Bitcoin quite a bit. It went down recently. I saw that. It skyrocketed. It's an intriguing concept. And interestingly, I just read a headline, I think 2 days ago, that JP Morgan Chase is planning on their own type of electronic currency. So
yeah,
Bitcoin might be onto something. What's really interesting is I'm a big fan of Lending Club, as I might have mentioned before. There's a new site out. It's called bitbond.net. And what that is it is a peer-to-peer Bitcoin lending platform. So, yeah, it's really intriguing. So, that's just evidence of the fact that Bitcoin is growing, and it's growing pretty quick.
Yeah, there are so many businesses going into that space and doing things with Bitcoin. It's really awesome to see. It's like a whole new industry that's just popping up.
Yeah, and for our physician, you can now pay with Bitcoin.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Really cool. So, did you use BitPay for that?
I think I used Coinbase. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Coinbase is great. It's like 0%, like 0 fees.
Yeah, it's so simple. It's truly amazing.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept. I just don't know how it's going to play out over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it will be interesting. China definitely, their banks and their government does not want it to go big, but, it's not really up to those people. It's kind of up to, the technology is what it's all about. So if the technology is as revolutionary as it appears to be, I don't think there's any person or a group of people that's going to be able to stop it. So I think we have that going for us right now. Yeah,
absolutely. And I like to be an early adopter. So this is a great early adoption of a potential game changer.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very early right at this point, so it's a good thing. Yeah, well, George, thanks so much for coming on. Really interesting stuff, helpful to me, and I'm sure my listeners as well. So thanks for coming on, and good luck with everything. And hopefully people can go check out your website, 4hourphysician.com, and we'll get that free book link up on Freedom Lovin' as well.
Yeah. I mean, I hope your readers will find it useful. I mean, I mentioned the VA locator service in one paragraph at the end of the book, but that's it. It is not a sales pitch for my service. It is here's everything you need to take the ball and run with it yourself. So, yeah, I mean, I hope they find it useful.
Awesome. It was great talking to you, and good luck, and I'm glad you're taking Bitcoin. I think that's a smart move.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm intrigued about the peer-to-peer lending with it, too, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Freedom Lovin' Podcast. To break free today, head on over to freedomlovin.com and download our free guide. 7 practical tips to living free in an unfree world.